Live from Citizen TV, this is The Explainer with Yvonne Okwara.
Njoki Shege is our sign language interpreter tonight. President William Ruto has opened up about what prompted him to extend an olive branch to former President Uhuru Kenyatta, stating that it is about finding common ground and working together as a matter of national interest. The president, who spoke during the Pastoralists Leadership Summit in Wajir County, said he had reached out to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga for the same reason. Melita Oletengis reports.
In Wajir County, where he attended the Pastoralist Leadership Summit, President William Ruto spoke to events on Monday. A meeting between him and his predecessor at the center of his brief but loaded remarks on the matter. The president saying it was in the national interest to work together as a country.
It is the reason why I am working with the former Prime Minister. It is the reason why I have reached out to the former president. It is the reason why I will reach out to all other leaders so that we can fashion a country that all of us believe in, a country that we can all have a stake in.
President Ruto addressing himself to the strained relationship he had with his former boss that led to his sidelining and Uhuru Kenyatta's endorsement to succeed him, despite an earlier pledge to his deputy that he would back him as a successor. Ruto keen to put all that in the past.
We must continuously build bridges instead of erecting barriers. We must always find it to create more synergy as we move forward.
The Jubilee Party, which the president leads and which has been embroiled in a bitter leadership tussle, saying it remained in the opposition. This faction, led by Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, which remained loyal to Kenyatta even as the other Kanini Kega-led faction sought to join the Kenya Kwanza gravy train, despite having been in Azimio, which was an opposition coalition.
So we are not talking to you to come into government. We are talking to you because it is necessary for all of us as Kenyans to talk to one another for the benefit of all Kenyans. When you come and visit me, then it is actually me who tells the neighbors who had visited and what was the neighbor looking for. Ni njaa, ni kiu, ama ni giza imekuwa zaidi.
Senior economic advisor to the president, Moses Kuria, on Tuesday applauded the move by the two leaders while calling for a return of the Building Bridges initiative. In a statement, Kuria said, "I urge President William Ruto, former President Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga to close ranks and lead the nation in picking up where BBI flopped and give this country a constitution that speaks to the emerging realities of our nation and society." He went ahead to say, it was a mistake to leave the Jubilee Party. However, it is not too late. We will now embark on bringing all the political parties with a footing in the region together under the Jubilee Party. Jubilee, with former President Kenyatta as the party leader, is the way to go. The president's remarks are a far cry from the reality of their relationship in the recent past. Both had disagreed frequently, openly and vehemently in public, each giving as good as he got.
Kunithreaten mimi, ati utanifanya nini? Bora usiue watoto wangu, lakini mimi na wewe tafadhali tuheshimiane.
And if they are planning something, my only plea, don't plan against my mother, don't plan against my children, plan for me. If it is me you want, leave them alone. What do they have to do with anything?
The latest attempt at mending the frayed ties causing a stir in the political arena, much to the surprise of Kenyans. Melita Oletengis, Citizen TV.
President William Ruto is describing those opposed to the National Livestock Vaccination Program slated for next year as, quote, unreasonable, mad, or possessed by evil spirits. In yet another burst into eyebrow-raising language, the president dismissed critics of the vaccination campaign as, quote, stupid people. Emmanuel Tor reports on a language trail that seems to be taking root in presidential functions.
He's perfecting the art of clapping back and lambasting his critics. And as he attended the 4th Pastoralist Leadership Summit in Wajir County, President William Ruto trained his guns at those opposed to the government's proposed nationwide vaccination program, targeting 22 million heads of cattle from January next year.
Anybody opposing vaccination to eliminate FMD and PPR is simply mad and unreasonable and possibly stupid.
The president saying he does not understand how anybody would be opposed to the plan.
I mean, honestly, how else can you explain? There is an evil spirit in Kenya that is resident in some leaders. They churn out falsehood. They oppose everything for the sake of opposing.
The opposition, led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, has faulted the program, terming it a foreign agenda, pushing Kenya into what will permanently alter the genetic structure of the local breeds.
That these vaccines will alter the genetic structure of our animals.
And in pushing back against his critics, President William Ruto has not been sparing words and inching close to strong language. 3 days ago, while attending the Kilifi International Investment Conference, Ruto referred to those alleging corruption in the National Equipment Service Program deal as fools.
You have to be a fool to be forced to sign the wrong thing, and you actually sign. You know, and you go and announce that I was forced. Of
Kenyans opposed to the Adani deal, the Social Health Authority, and the Affordable Housing Project, President Ruto described them as possessed by evil spirits.
Kuna pepo chafu ya upingamizi kupinga kila kitu. Kiwanda kama hii watu wanaipinga. Affordable housing wanaipinga. Mambo ya afya wanaipinga. Sasa mimi nauliza, hii pepo chafu, nafikiri hata imefika wanapinga hata matoleo kanisani. Jameni.
A year ago, the president appeared to engage in a soft launch of strong language as he warned against corruption.
Nimesema hawa watu mambo yao ni tatu. Si ndio? Either wahame Kenya, ama waende jela, ama waende mbinguni. Hakuna dawa ingine.
The increasingly strong language likely to place the president on the coalition course with lingual Puritans who believe in the place of presidential language. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Chief Justice Martha Koome has called out unnamed individuals for allegedly pressuring her to resign from her position. The Chief Justice condemned harassment and cyberbullying that she attributed to these unnamed individuals, whom she believes, or which she believes, is meant to force her out of office. And as Citizen TV's Ben Kirui reports, the Chief Justice says she remains undeterred, stating that those seeking to defame her should reconsider their tactics, as she has no intention of stepping down.
I am going nowhere, Chief Justice Martha Koome says, responding to people who she says are trying to pressure her into resigning. The Chief Justice declaring that no amount of cyberbullying, intimidation or harassment will force her out of office.
When I speak, I always confess that I'm a victim of cyberbullying, or is it called technologically facilitated gender-based violence. But I know the intentions. It's a business model. I don't know to achieve what, maybe to scare me, to distract me, to defame me, and hold me out of office, but they can try something else.
The CJ highlighted the ongoing challenges posed by individuals seeking to undermine her leadership, particularly those aligned with corrupt interests that her administration has confronted head-on.
We have taken also the existential threats that we have been told about, which I have noted. Thank you very much, Duncan Okero. You have kept on reminding us what they are. It is climate change. It is corruption that has eaten the fabric of our society.
Koome reaffirmed the judiciary's unwavering commitment to fighting corruption, despite persistent efforts by such groups to retaliate. She emphasized that these obstacles, along with the chronic underfunding of the judiciary, will not deter her or the institution from delivering justice and serving the Kenyan people.
We in the judiciary occupy a special role of ensuring that we protect our society from these corrupt practices.
Addressing the lack of cooperation from law enforcement agencies, Koome pointed out that while the courts ensure justice is served, some perpetrators still evade punishment due to systemic challenges.
We know we have dealt with the perpetrator and we are put him behind bar. But when we are put him behind bar, he is being trained, vocational training by the University of London to become lawyers. The other day we had 29 of them qualify as lawyers. What happened to the victim?
The Chief Justice was speaking during the launch of the inaugural Human Rights Summit on Tuesday, where she underscored the judiciary's dedication to upholding the rights and best interest of all Kenyans. The judiciary has often come under attack from human rights defenders for turning a deaf ear to human rights violations. However, by launching this inaugural Human Rights Summit, the judiciary has reaffirmed its unwavering commitment to upholding and safeguarding the Bill of Rights. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And just a reminder, we're going to be having a conversation on International Human Rights Day, on the state of human rights and democracy here in the country right after this newscast. So do stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, chaos erupted in Nairobi's central business district earlier today when police fired tear gas to disperse protesters who were marching towards Parliament in demonstrations against the rise of femicide cases in the country. The peaceful demonstrators, who were calling for justice for victims and demanding accountability from the government, were caught off guard by the sudden use of force. The protesters were marching peacefully, chanting slogans and carrying placards when the police moved in to break up the gathering and to prevent the crowd from regrouping. The protesters accused government of failing to prioritize investigations regarding femicide cases and holding perpetrators accountable. They also called for implementation of stronger measures to protect women from violence and ensure justice for victims.
We are here today because we don't want women to be killed anymore. We want justice for the women who are killed, the women whose bodies were found in sacks. Mikono na miguu ziko kando, man. We don't know who did that, and that's not fair. Protect the ladies. Hatutasema men are not being killed. Hatusemi hivyo. We are saying females kwa sababu kwa hizo gunia tuliona mwili za wanawake. Chats tumeshikilia kama ile pale Mario na Jang. Ndio hizi chats hapa. These are people being killed. And they're all females. It's not fair. Help us figure it out. Government, tuambie nani alifanya. Tuambie mmewashika, tuko safe. And she's like, what next? Ujui unatembea, nani atakupiga sangapi? You see, it's not safe for us women. And at the moment, it's Kenya leading with a high number of ladies being killed each and every day. So please, protect us women and stop killing us. That's all we're asking for. Please, 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 stop killing women and please say their names.
The Ministry of Education has moved to allay fears from parents and stakeholders in the education sector over the transition of grade 9 learners. With less than a month to go to the reopening of schools, concerns are rife that many schools are ill-prepared to accommodate grade 9 learners in January, who will be the pioneer learners of the CBC curriculum. Education CS Julius Migos has, however, assured the country that the construction of classrooms is underway across the country and will be completed in time.
With less than a month to the reopening of schools and the transition to grade 9 of the first cohort of the CBC curriculum, there are concerns among teachers and parents over the lack of adequate classrooms in most schools to welcome the pioneer learners. The Ministry of Education has sought to allay fears among parents, saying the government has put in place plans for a smooth transition. The ministry has procured 9.9 million textbooks for grade 9 learners, with over 5 million distributed to schools so far.
The transition will take place, but whatever challenges that will come, we'll be prepared to handle them. The infrastructure, which is the main concern, would be able to give you the figures and to give you an indication on when we are likely to be able to complete that construction.
Ikielekea hapo January, watoto yetu.
Basic Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang says the construction of 11,000 classrooms is ongoing countrywide in preparation for grade 9. Kipsang says the government has set aside 11 billion for the construction of the classrooms, with each classroom expected to cost 1 million. The PS has directed school heads to use the funds strictly for the construction of the classrooms. Phase 1 of the construction is 98% complete and entailed 3,500 classrooms. The second phase of 7,500 classrooms is 70% complete.
Hivyo nataka wahakikishie sisi wote kwamba kufika January tutakuwa tayari kwa watoto yetu wenye wataenda grade 9. Tutakuwa tumepeleka walimu retooling, tutakuwa tumeleta vitabu, tutakuwa tumejenga madarasa. Serikali imewaajiri walimu 20,000 mpya ili tusaidie kwa hii mambo ya grade 9.
In terms of the teachers, the retooling is taking place. The employment of 20,000 teachers is ongoing. We have the 46,000 teachers that have already been placed on permanent and pensionable. The books on the ratio of 1:1, the distribution is going on. The exercise is going to be completed by about the 15th of this month.
In a statement sent to newsrooms, the Ministry of Education says it has finalized the preparation of capitation grants for junior secondary schools ahead of opening in January 2025. The ministry has released 15.3 billion of the annual capitation to 20,314 junior secondary schools.
We'll be working to ensure that schools get capitation before they open, so that there is no, suffering of the teachers and of their teachers. We are working with Treasury to ensure that the figures that will be required for January are released just before the schools open.
The Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms 2023 recommended domiciling of JSS in existing primary schools, dividing opinion among stakeholders, with opponents insisting grade 9 should be domiciled in secondary schools, where Form 1 classrooms will remain idle from next year. Miri Mwoki, Citizen TV.
At least 6 people have died at Hilo in Dabel Moyale, Marsabit County, after a gold mine collapsed. More than 10 illegal miners sustained serious injuries and were rushed to Moyale Hospital. Police say the victims had intruded into the illegal gold mine, which had been shut down by the government for security reasons. 3 bodies have so far been retrieved, with recovery operations underway to try and remove 3 others that remain trapped. It is reported that illegal mining has been going on at the hill despite the ban by government. Hilo Hill is among gold mines which had been gazetted as disturbed areas in May this year, and their reopening was in process before this tragedy occurred. Only last week, the Principal Secretary for Mining, along with the County Governor Mahmoud Ali, visited the mines and came up with the reopening strategy. Authorities insist activities which were going on at the gold mine were illegal and permission had not been granted for its operation. Now, Kenyans could be consuming contaminated rice after it emerged that a consignment of rice totaling 2 million kilograms, which had been declared unfit for human consumption, was diverted into the market. Documents obtained by from the Kenya Bureau of Standards shows that the rice that was imported from Pakistan in September and October had failed the aflatoxin tests, as it contained higher levels than locally permissible. And as Stephen Leto reports, despite the standards body's declaration that the rice wasn't fit, only a fraction was intercepted, with millions of kilograms sneaked into the market, exposing Kenyans to health risks.
According to the documents, 83,200 bags of rice were imported from Pakistan in South Asia by Gamma Food Traders Limited and shipped through the Indian Ocean to the port of Mombasa. The first consignment was released from Pakistan on 29 September this year, and the second consignment was released from Karachi in Pakistan on Mashujaa Day this year. When the rice docked in Mombasa, a total of 2,080 tons of rice were released from Kilindini to Nairobi. According to records, this rice consignment was released from the port without certificates of conformity at the point of entry. When the Kenya Bureau of Standards established that the contaminated rice was in circulation, market surveillance officers moved into action but only seized 23 tons, with the remaining 2,057 tons of the poisonous rice flooding the Kenyan market, exposing consumers to danger. The fraction of that consignment was seized at Anytime Limited at Central Business Park, Road C Industrial Area. Upon tests at the KEBS laboratory, results showed that the rice in the market contained high levels of aflatoxin that is unfit for human consumption. The tests showed 11.54 levels of aflatoxin per kilogram against a recommended maximum level of 5.0 per kilogram. Attempts by KEBS to recall the contaminated rice from the market did not bear fruits, with only 5,300 kgs of Pola biryani rice and 6,000 kgs of Kuku biryani rice recovered. For the last 2 months, unsuspecting Kenyans could have been buying the contaminated rice in the market, and with the festive season kicking in, more Kenyans could be exposed to the dangerous rice. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
Veteran journalist and former Citizen TV managing editor Herman Igambi has died following a lengthy battle with brain cancer. The journalist, known for his dedication and commitment and nurturing talent in the media industry. Igambi died on Monday at his home village in Burunda Saboti constituency in Trans Nzoia County. Annabelle Obala reports.
An aura of pain and sorrow was apparent in the village of Burunda, home to where the late veteran journalist Herman Igambi spent most of his retirement age as he battled brain cancer disease since the year 2015.
Alipotoka kazini, alianza kuwa mdhaifu, na katika hiyo hali ameweza kupata matibabu mbalimbali.
Family and friends gathered at his home, with his wife narrating how his illness forced him to undergo a number of operations, including eye and brain surgery that later on resulted in severe complications that weakened his body.
Imefika mwaka huu mwezi wa 8 na akazidiwa. Alipatikana na stroke ya mkono wa kushoto, na alipopata stroke hakuweza kuzungumza mara tena. Memaliza miezi zote 4 akiwa tu chini ya kulala, bila kuamka, bila kusema, bila kunena. Imefika tarehe 9 ikawa ndio mwisho.
During his career in the media industry, Igambi worked in different media stations such as the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation KBC, Kenya Television Network KTN, and Citizen TV, where he demonstrated dedication, excellence and commitment toward his work.
Alipokuwa kazini alimenta wanahabari shupavu kama wakina Kasavuli, wakina Boke na wengineo ambao walikuwa mashuhuri. Tunaomba tuwe pamoja wakati huu wa msiba ili tuweze kumpatia what we call in English a befitting send off.
Angeweza kukula na mdomo, amekuwa akikulia kwa mrija. Tulimpenda sana, lakini Mungu akampenda.
Mtu mzima kulala chini miezi 4 si kitu rahisi. Tunasema asante, wacha akapumzike kwa sababu ameumia kwa muda mrefu.
Burial preparations for the deceased veteran are underway, with friends, family and colleagues eulogizing him as a mentor, citing the legacy and gap he has left behind that will assure his place in history of journalism and media. Annabelle Obala, Citizen TV.
May his soul rest in peace. Many veteran journalists, of course, tout him for giving them their start in this industry. Let's take a break now, but a reminder that after this live newscast, we are going to be having a conversation on the state of human rights and democracy in this country on this International Human Rights Day. My guest, Diana Gishengo, Executive Director from the Institute for Social Accountability. Hussein Khalid, the CEO of Vocal Africa, will be joining us to talk about that and much more. But this is the time when we take that break here on The Explainer. More news. Welcome back to The Explainer. Now, thousands of families in hardship areas struggling with food insecurity and malnutrition are seeking alternative ways of including that into their dietary shift. Under the regular cash transfer program, communities receive cash which they use to purchase balanced diets as opposed to relying on meat and milk. As Willie Lusige reports, the program is currently being implemented in 5 counties.
Turkana, like many other arid and semi-arid regions in the country, is regarded as a hardship area with frequent droughts and food scarcity, forcing the communities living in the most parts of the country to largely rely on milk and meat from their livestock. Like Loperiane Ekhai and his wife Pauline Ekhai, along with their 5 children, families in this region have been dependent on an unbalanced diet. Finding diverse meals has been difficult. Subsequently, Turkana has been one of the areas with the highest cases of malnutrition. The community, especially young children, have been grappling with stunting and malnutrition, primarily due to reliance on milk and meat, which sometimes is scarce.
Nauza senge, labda nunua tumbaku, mahindi korokoro 3 hivi, napatia mama, aweze tu.
Mambo ya mboga haiko juu sana. Tulikuwa tunapenda kula nyama, ugali, tunaweza kula ugali na maziwa. Hiyo ndio ilikuwa chakula yetu sana. Mboga haikuwa kitu muhimu sana.
But there is a new hope. A program is bringing dietary change to the pastoralist region, where one of Ekhai's daughter, along with her mother, has been enrolled. The Niche program, Nutrition Improvement through Cash and Health Education, is helping the community adopt balanced nutritious foods that were previously unheard of in the region.
Yeye aliandika program ya Niche 2020. Na hiyo program imemsaidia yeye kupitia huyu mtoto, na hiyo program imemsaidia kulea watoto wote.
Counties like Turkana itself has had even the highest rates of malnutrition, and particularly when you look at stunting. The nutrition program seeks to bring down those numbers in terms of making sure that our children, particularly those who are under the age of 5, have access to nutritious foods.
The Niche program, initially set up by UNICEF, is designed to improve the nutritional status of children during the first 1,000 days of life. The project started in Kitui and has since expanded to 4 additional counties: West Pokot, Turkana, Marsabit and Kilifi. These counties were selected due to their high levels of child poverty, chronic malnutrition, stunting, wasting and food insecurity.
Kazi yangu tu ni kuchana hii makupia hii. Ndio nalishia watoto. Ndio nasomesha nayo watoto.
Hakuna ngamia, hakuna ng'ombe, hakuna punda. Unashikilia tu mbuzi 10 tu hivi.
Under the new cash transfer program being implemented by United Nations Children's Fund, families are provided with Kenyan shillings 500 per child under 24 months. Every listed homestead has a child that benefits from the funds, which has improved diet, nutrition and reduced cases of chronic diseases.
Pesa nilikuwa napata hiyo. Toa kidogo hii, shule, magonjwa, tumbo.
Community myths and beliefs are being challenged, and the menu on family tables is changing drastically, with the locals adopting new menu with all necessary nutrients such as vegetables and fruits, items that were once rare in these dry regions.
Tunawafunza jinsi ya kupika, wanapika chakula kwa wakati gani, na chakula hii inasaidia mama ama mtoto anapata madini gani kwa hiyo chakula.
Local village meetings and household visits led by community health volunteers, CHVs, play a significant role in promoting optimal health and nutrition practices for young children and pregnant women.
Tukawafunza ya kuwa ukikula aina moja chakula kuna madini ambayo mwili haijapata. Kwa hivyo mwili yako isipopata hiyo madini, kuna changamoto ya magonjwa, unapata magonjwa, pengine ukosefu wa damu kwa mwili, labda macho haioni vizuri.
Women like Pauline have also been educated on how to use the funds to improve their diets and the health of their young children. This includes purchasing nutritious food, planting crops, or starting small businesses that help bring more income.
Tunaona kama kuna mabadiliko kwa boma as in mambo ya behavior change, kwa sababu unaweza kuwa unafunza watu lakini bado tu wako pale. Lakini tunaona kuwa kuna mabadiliko katika familia. Anasema hapa awali hiyo duka yake ilikuwa ya matope, lakini wakati aliendelea kupata hiyo pesa na kusalisha akajenga hiyo nyumba yenye iko saizi ya block hiyo, na biashara imeongezeka, sio kama vile ilikuwa.
Families have now embraced a new popular dish called langaria, or soft ugali, which includes highly nutritious vegetables. It provides mothers and children with all the essential nutrients required. The program is critical as studies show that nutrition during pregnancy or a child's first 2 years can significantly impact their mental and physical development for life. Plans are also underway to expand the program to more areas.
And already we are seeing, indicators coming down. Just to mention, Turkana that was reporting about 26% of stunting in the year 2022. The recent Kenya Demographic and Health Survey indicates that that number has come down to almost 18.
The modest monthly contributions have now transformed the lives of many mothers and their little angels through education, feeding, and even funding. And the impact is not only felt here at the cradle of mankind in Lodwar, but also spreading to other underprivileged areas in the country. Willie Lusigia, Citizen TV, Lokichar, in the county of Turkana.
The Safaricom Sambaza Furaha caravan traversed Machakos County for the second day as the giant mobile service provider continued celebrating December festivities with its customers. The caravan snaked through Machakos, Kathiani, Tala and Kamulu areas, giving residents a chance to interact with their favorite presenters from Musi FM and Radio Citizen and benefit from the wide array of gifts. Marianne Nyambura reports.
The Safaricom Sambaza Furaha caravan was well received in Machakos town as the team camped in Lower Eastern Region. Musicians from the Ukambani region entertaining residents who were later sensitized on Safaricom services, including voice and data offers, and how to detect fraud.
In the recent, we have seen a lot of fraud kwa soko zetu. Wateja wetu watapeliwa, watu wanajitokelezea kusema wao ni wana Safaricom, lakini nia yao si mzuri, ni kuchukua ama kupora pesa ya customer wetu.
Residents received goodies, including goats, chicken, food hampers and airtime.
Nimefurahia sana kuwa hapa na Safaricom kwa Sambaza Furaha. Nimezawadika kwa zawadi ya kuku. Hongera sana pia kwa Safaricom.
Nimekutana na watu wa Safaricom nikachinja mbuzi.
The caravan later toured Kathiani, Tala and Kamulu areas.
I want to thank each and every one of you for getting us to 34 million customers as of November 2024. 34 million is no small feat, but it means that you have given us feedback, we have responded, and we want to do a lot more.
Safaricom also launched outlets in Machakos and Kathiani towns in a bid by the company to bring services closer to the people.
We are celebrating 24 years, and we are celebrating 24 years of partnership between Royal Media and Safaricom. These companies are big and number one because of the support that we have gotten from our fans, the people that we are going around saying Asante to and celebrating early Christmas with. I lead up to the big one next year, which will even be bigger and better, celebrating 25 years of Safaricom.
The Safaricom Sambaza Furaha caravan heads to Makueni County on Wednesday this week as it seeks to reward and sensitize its customers 24 years since its inception. Marianne Nyambura, Citizen TV, Tala, Machakos County.
The government is reconfiguring its job creation policies to tackle the unemployment crisis in the country. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki says a four-pronged strategy of international labor mobility, digital jobs, jobs in the local market and the Climate Works program was underway through stakeholders locally and internationally. Speaking during an appraisal and stock-taking briefing with the Ministries of Labour, Foreign Affairs, Trade, Blue Economy and National Treasury, Kindiki said finalization of new legislative and policy frameworks will increase access to decent opportunities locally and abroad, expedite the conclusion of bilateral labour agreements and establish a national skills inventory to align skills with local and overseas labour markets demands.
And we want to appeal to the people of Kenya to look at the multifaceted approaches that this government is looking at the issue of job creation. Some of the jobs are being created locally in the public sector, but also in the private sector. Other jobs are being created virtually, where people can work from anywhere so long as they have access to the digital space. And then, of course, finally, we're also creating a critical mass of diaspora workers who might work abroad but still connected to our country in terms of remittances, investments, and this is part of our promotion of trade in services. The same way we are promoting the exports in goods, we also want to promote trade in services and make sure that we have a number of Kenyans working in the diaspora.
Our rights, our future, right now. That is the theme for this year's International Human Rights Day, which is why today we're talking about the state of democracy and human rights in Kenya. Diana Gishengo from TISA and Hussein.
Visit www.stanbic.co.ke. Stanbic Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
The International Monetary Fund is set to send a team to Kenya to work with the government in implementing governance reforms beginning 2025. The announcement was made by IMF Deputy Managing Director Nigel Clark during his first visit to the country. Nigel, who held meetings with the President, the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and the Central Bank Governor, says the Kenyan authorities requested the institution's help in creating a governance diagnostics tool. On the recent criticism of IMF's engagement with Kenya, Nigel Clark distanced the organization from internal taxation decisions. Jimmy Mbogo has more.
In an effort to set the record straight on the involvement with the Kenyan government, the International Monetary Fund distanced itself from the heightened taxation measures in the country. Speaking in Nairobi, the IMF Deputy Managing Director Nigel Clark noted that the role of the institute is solely to offer advice based on economic environment. Nigel laid the responsibility squarely on the Kenyan authorities for their aggressive tax measures.
Specific revenue measures are not the design of the IMF. The specific revenue choices made are totally within the purview of the Kenyan government. The IMF is not involved in making specific decisions in relation to specific taxes here or there.
The IMF further noted that the decision to lower its disbursement to Kenya during the 7th and 8th review that was concluded in November was based on the assessment of Kenya's need at the time.
Given that the government was successful in its Eurobond issue earlier this year, the balance of payments needs declined. And as a result, due to the fact that the needs declined, the amount of the disbursement was commensurately reduced.
The IMF has also cautioned the government against taking on more loans, insisting that any new loans must be taken within the context of a comprehensive fiscal strategy designed to reduce the country's debt vulnerability and ensure its consistency with the country's long-term fiscal sustainability.
And given where things stand today, what that in turn implies is that Kenya's budgetary arrangements are not built upon a foundation of continually increasing levels of debt.
Although the IMF has agreed to undertake a governance diagnostic in Kenya, it warns that this will not be an end in itself and cannot resolve all the governance issues, but will only present a roadmap of reforms that can be incorporated in the country. The aggressive tax measures that have been implemented over the last couple of years have been blamed on IMF conditionality, but the International Monetary Fund now says it is not responsible for any of these taxes as they are particularly in the reach of the government. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
The World Bank is sounding the alarm over the growing national debt, saying that the country is facing a high risk of debt distress. In a report titled The Kenya Economic Update, the World Bank has indicated that the country's fiscal position remains precarious as revenue collections fall short of targets, hampering financial restructuring efforts by the government. Here's Jasmine Wamboi with the details of that report.
The World Bank has released the latest edition of the Kenya Economic Update report, showing that despite improving macroeconomic conditions, the country's growth has been decelerating. The World Bank has now revised Kenya's projected growth rate downward from an earlier estimate of 5% to 4.7%.
The downward revision is based on the fiscal consolidation, subdued investor confidence, and of course the weather-related shocks.
The economy faces elevated risks, including a high likelihood of debt distress, credit challenges, and potential social and fiscal disruptions. The national debt to GDP ratio has shrunk, but the World Bank says that this was largely due to the appreciation of the shilling. Domestic debt now accounts for 51.1% of the country's total debt, with external debt standing at 48.9% in the last financial year.
So what are the vulnerabilities that we need to keep our eyes on? These include the interest rate shocks, export shocks, given the dismal performance in our exports. As you all know, that there was a time when we had ratios of 20% of exports to GDP, and now those have declined to 10-11% of GDP. So a lot needs to be done to boost our exports.
However, the macroeconomic conditions in the country have improved. The exchange rate is stabilizing after a sharp appreciation in February. Foreign exchange reserves at the CBK are strengthening and now stand at 4.5 months of import cover. Additionally, the current account deficit has reached sustainable levels. Jasmine Wamboi, Citizen TV.
Stakeholders in the country's agricultural sector have begun exploring initiatives to accelerate the adoption of digital agriculture. During a workshop organized by the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, ICRISAT, and the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, CALRO, in Nairobi, participants emphasized the need for tailor-made solutions to address the barriers faced by small-scale farmers. The meeting aimed to assess the current status of digital agriculture in Africa and identify critical investment and policy needs.
The biggest challenge what farmers are facing in terms of adoption of digital tools and technique is one is the access to those customized tools or customized advisory which fits into their farming situations. And in that context, the capacity and knowledge, I think that's something important. So the capacity development and knowledge sharing is also limiting them.
Precision agriculture means having the right information, reaching out to our farmers at the right time with a clear accuracy on time specificness.
Actually, we have to have some policy intervention also for promoting the technology, giving the credits to the farmers, and then basically the capacity building of the farmers.
Sports Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has assured Kenyans that the country will host the 2024 African Nations Championships, despite concerns over the slow renovation of Kasarani and Nyayo Stadia. Speaking during the launch of the local organizing committee for CHAN 2024 and the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations AFCON, Murkomen expressed confidence in meeting the remaining 3-week deadline. The LOC, led by the former CECAFA Secretary-General Nicolas Musonye, will oversee the preparations for both tournaments. Murkomen emphasized that the government, in collaboration with the Confederation of Africa Football (CAF), is working tirelessly to ensure the venues meet the required international standards.
You know, if you go to Kasarani now, the pitch is almost ready. I mean, the grass itself, some work is being done, of course, to continue maintaining. Nyayo is the only main problem with Nyayo is lights. The rest of the things are achievable, and we're trying to see can lift the lights. In Kasarani, the main thing that we really want the contractor to push very hard is to finish fixing the trusses, because that is where you will mount the lights, so that then we can clear the place, not to become a construction site, and then fix the seats and a few other things.
You know, I've been hearing a lot about social media over the past few days about, you know, where this tournament might be ending up. And, you know, I want to show everyone that it's CAF's commitment to make sure that this tournament will take place in the countries that it was intended to take place. So we are here to work hard and make sure that that happens.
The East Africa Parliamentary Games entered day 4 in Mombasa with a focus on darts, that is, gaining popularity among members of parliament from the East African region. The darts competition is unique as it incorporated members of parliament with disability. Kenya started off on a good note with Captain Tim Wanyonyi, MP for Westlands constituency, Nairobi, winning the opening match 2-1 against his Ugandan opponent. Rose Museo, MP for Makueni constituency, delivered the second win for Kenya with a 2-1 win over her Ugandan opponent in a tightly contested match. Tarbo constituency MP Janet Sitiene put the Kenyan fans on their feet once again as she showed great skills to floor her opponent from Tanzania. Nominated Senator George Mbugua lost his match in one of the few blips from the Kenyan team.
This is the third one we are playing here because this was a late entrance in the games. Initially, members of parliament with disability just used to go there as fans. We can't watch and do nothing, but we said we must also participate.
Former Harambee Stars captain Musa Otieno says he's temporarily back to his roots in Mombasa, where his international career started with the Harambee Stars under coach Mohamed Heri. The two were united again in Mombasa, where Musa Otieno is the appointed head coach of the school's holiday camps football program, organized by the Kenya Academy of Sports. Musa is coaching the selected talents from the schools in the coast region under the program ran by the Kenya Academy of Sports. Mohamed Heri paid a visit to the training camp to offer a word of encouragement to the boys selected during the regional school games at the coast. Coach Musa says the system that he's using has been replicated in other counties under the Kenya Academy of Sports programs to ensure all the children have the same development structure.
Who has the youth has the future, and with CAS I think this is the right direction, and I think this is one of the things which I think in Kenya have been missing. And first of all, to see how can we give these youngsters from the early age good basic football of professionalism.
The National Olympic Committee of Kenya, NOCK, has unveiled a 4-month roadmap for the 2025 elections to pick new office bearers. The process will start in February with the recruitment of the Electoral Board and conclude in May 2025 after the election of new office bearers on the 24th of April 2025. President Paul Tergat has served 2 terms, and the Congress will now pick a new leader for the organization. They will also elect a new first vice president to replace Shadrach Maluki, who has served 2 terms a new second vice president after the death of Waithaka Kioni, a new treasurer to replace Eliud Kariuki, and a new secretary general to replace Francis Mutuku. The AGM also highlighted key milestones that include the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, expanded programs like the Beach Games, new partnerships increasing the number to 16, and sustainability focus.
The costs came so that they can pay us our costs, the 10 million.
We've done a lot to be able to rebuild the National Olympic Committee as a brand which can be respected, which a lot of top corporates can be able to partner. And we've known that transition periods are normally very tricky. And therefore, we're able to present to the General Assembly a calendar of activities so that everyone is aware who will be voting during the elective assembly, what positions will be there, and what date will be there.